I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do a video about today. I've got so much on my mind. Um, but I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the desire to make writing a job, to make it your career. And it's probably going to get a little bit of heartfelt. So get a box of tissues. But more than anything, grab yourself a beverage for this very early morning episode of the Magic Library. My name is Kat, the Crow-Winged author, here at the Magic Library, and we're going to be talking about having a career as a professional author and writer. This year has been very, very weird for me because I left a job that I was financially stable in, but the reason I left was because I knew that if I had stayed longer, I would become the victim of verbal and emotional abuse, and it would definitely be a mental strain on me. So there's that. And I just recently left a job where I knew it was going to be temporary, but I just didn't feel like it was helping me any. And but I can take that as a learning experience, and that's basically what this is. As you can tell, this episode is probably going to be a little bit heartfelt, and it's sort of to talk about how my journey has progressed. And speaking of journeys, shameless plug coming in. If you want to follow along the journey of Luxalia as she wakes up in a field of muted colored flowers and goes all the way to the royal estate of the city of Ipsidia Terma, you should read my debut novel, Arborea Lux. Arborea Lux is a supernatural dark fantasy with some romance, some mystery, a villain wanting to overthrow the ruling monarchy to get revenge, and not revenge on the person you think. There's a lot of good twists in here. If you guys are interested in a book like that, I have the link for it down below for Amazon, and you can go there and buy a copy. And if you have bought a copy, please go to Goodreads or go to Amazon and leave a review about how you like the book. The book reviews actually help to get the book out there and everything, and I would very greatly appreciate it. But besides that, let's get on to the video and talk about this journey of mine of being a writer and striving to be a full-time author. So yeah. When I was young, 5 or 6, I knew that I wanted to be a writer. That is what I told my parents that I wanted to be, and it was very weird considering I had no experience with writing besides my very vivid imagination and creating worlds and characters to sort of play around with, because where I live and everything, there weren't a lot of children around. I was sort of on the edge of the city of where I live and the county school districts and everything. So I really didn't have a lot of friends growing up. So I guess that is part of the reason why I became as my mom and my friends like to say, a very talented creator. Because I was always creating my own friends. I was creating my own adventures, and it was a very difficult time when I was a child because Mom was in the hospital sometimes, not for the reasons that you were probably thinking, but she was healthy physically, but mentally she was sort of dealing with a lot, and her doctor misdiagnosed her. And for those of you who are wondering, she's doing well. She's doing amazing right now. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I spent most of my time with my dad, and my dad and I, whenever Mom would be at the hospital, we would be trying to do things together because that was the only real parental relationship that I had. But he was not the only one taking care of me at the time. Our church family at the time also stepped in and took care of me. And let's just say that was sort of the beginning of some religious programming. But hey, I'm in the South, and I was sort of pushed towards views that I didn't know what they really meant when I was a kid. So there's that. But I discovered along the way that I was not creating as much as I was when I was at home. And to be honest, I don't really remember why that was. I don't know if it was because I was so distracted or if I was just always worried about Mom. I sort of grew up fast when I was a kid, and I had to. It was sort of like a survival switch flipped in me. I had to figure out how to take care of myself, and it's remarkable my parents didn't take me to a psychologist, particularly because of all of that. Yeah, let's just say it was very, very, it was a very rocky time for me, and I think by the time I was like maybe 10 to 12 years old, I had stopped creating completely. I was more focused on reading than anything else. But of course, even to this day, I cannot tell you what books I was reading. And I can tell you that it was probably not, it was probably sort of against my will. I was very much in the crux of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and where a lot of people usually have that sort of dream job that they have when they go into junior high school and high school and everything. It was not the way with me. I did not have anything planned, primarily because I was aware of how things could change, and I think that's why I don't really like plans in the form of planning ahead by like 4 or 5 years. Those traditional questions, those like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I had a very hard time with that, primarily because I knew that things could rapidly change. So there was that and everything. So yeah. It wasn't until I was in my 8th grade year, in my first year at my middle school, because the school that I'd always gone to had shut down due to financial reasons, and we were all separated and moved to another school. Some of us found our way to this particular middle school that was a brand new building, and because the old school building had actually been ravaged by a tornado, and we all came in, and it was there that I sort of got into like sort of episodic, because it felt like I was in a story that I was not a main character. I was just a side character, a background character in other people's stories. Because in middle school and high school and everything, in middle school and junior high and high school and everything, you sort of feel like that, but at the same time, it's like, when does my story begin? And my story actually does not start until high school. In high school, I experienced a sort of creative change, and I can actually attribute that so much to my friend Courtney, because I was full of creative juices in a way, but at the same time, I didn't know what to do with them. They were just sort of just pent up and just like on, and then like being a continuous line of jars on a shelf in sort of a 1930s distillery. I was just there. But with her help, I sort of got back to my roots. I was creating again, and it came in the form of drawing. Courtney is a very wonderful artist and everything. She was when we were in high school, and I was so envious because of that talent that she had. And she always used to draw these same characters over and over again. A beautiful elf woman that was sort of childlike and naive called Descovanus. A elf that turns into a werewolf, and the two of them are in love with each other. And I think the story was that the two of them were in love with each other. His name is Echo. You've got Descovanus's fathers and brother. You've got Echo's friend Ren, but the characters that she always used to talk about were Descovanus and Echo. And to say the least, I was so intrigued by their story, and I was like, what can you tell me about this? Can you tell me any more? What's their latest adventure? And of course, she and I are sort of same when it comes to emotional backstories. One of our favorite jokes was that in Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling actually, every single time Harry Potter found a link to his past or someone that could potentially help him and give him a new sense of family, she killed. His godfather, he finally has a relationship with a godfather, someone he knew he could learn about his parents from, let's kill him. Stuff like that. And it was sort of funny that way. Well, this was also my first instance of learning how to online roleplay through text, and that was particularly interesting. You're probably going to make fun of me for this. I was a huge Ultimate Spider-Man fan at the time, and one of my favorite characters was Danny Rand, who is played by Greg Cipes, who you may know also does the voice of Beast Boy in the original Teen Titans and in Teen Titans Go, which I absolutely refuse to watch. But I had a notebook, and we started writing out our role plays in this notebook. We would do it whenever we got the chance, and I remember Courtney sometimes saying, like, why are your responses so long? And I was just like, I don't know, I didn't feel like I was giving enough details. So there was that. My creativity had gone from drawing characters, and specifically drawing anime characters that I liked, going into role-playing with a notebook, probably saying where this is going, and then after that I started going into fan fiction, which I discovered quickly I could not do at school because people would make fun of me for it. I can think of the 3 people in particular that were always just seemed to be looming around. And one of them reminds me so much of Raquel from the Barbie Diaries, but that is beyond the point. But by the time junior year and my senior year rolled around, I had a story idea, and that story idea was for The Ghosts of Birchwood Hollow. And at first I was writing it by hand like I usually do now, but it soon became a habit for me to go to the library and write it on the computer, type it out on the computer and save it to a flash drive that I had. And I want to say I worked on it for at least 1.5 hours, 2 hours every day at the end of the day, waiting for the buses to come. And basically I finished a manuscript, I want to say, in 2.5, 3 months. But that was before I really knew about anything, about plot and just like how a story should be structured. I mean, like, the story was there, but like there were so many characters that don't pop up again until later on. And if you actually look at my writing is so cringy. Oh my God. Like, so incredibly cringy. It was I actually found the manuscript recently, and just looking back on it now, I have an involuntary shudder that goes up my spine. But that was my first instance writing a full manuscript, and to my untrained eye, I was done. I had my dad at the time. At that time of his particular job, print out the manuscript, and so I can give one copy to him for him to proofread and to him to read through. One to somebody at church, because I was still heavily involved in the church at the time, and one to my English teacher, and to see where she is. I never received the copy back from her. I did receive the copy back from my dad, and I also received the copy back from our friend at church. And the friend at church, he was telling me that I was repeating too many words, like there was a white door, there was somebody outside that white door, the white door then opened, that just an example. That really wasn't the sentences or anything, that was just an example. Specifically, that was the example that he used. But I was sort of discouraged after that. I didn't, and I always made the excuse that I needed to work on the edits. Well, I never did. So, after that, I started, I went to college, and I went to first the community college here in my hometown, and I was working a job. I was working at a job that I experienced my first panic attack at, and my first time that a boss told me that I needed to get it together, and not in a caring way. But it was, and around that time I'd actually come up with another story idea, and I was writing it on receipt paper, and it was a more fantastical story than my previous work. It was my first alternate Earth story, or first alternate Earth reality, and it was interesting to say the least, because it had to do with elves, which were definitely not my forte at the time, and there was also there was a girl who was sort of isekai'd into that world, and she didn't know who she was. She didn't know where she'd come from, and she didn't know anything. But she looked like the spitting image of one of the 3 creator deities of this world that the elves believed in. So I started working on that, and I worked on that from this first job that I had all the way to the second job. But around the time of the second job, I actually started falling off of writing again, and I was not as creative as I was. I was beginning to pigeonhole myself specifically in anime writing, and there was that, and then there was also my last few semesters there at the community college, and that was when I started. That's where I met my first otaku friend, and she invited me to an anime convention, and I remember having so much fun at this anime convention because I wanted to be in. I sort of cemented it in myself that I wanted to be a manga writer. I wanted to be one of the, because I didn't know any better at the time, one of the first American mangakas. And I discovered quickly I was not the first one, but I did find a creator to support on YouTube, and her name is Lisbeth R. Jimenez, and she is a brilliant writer. I sort of wish I had, I still need her volume 4 of her manga series, and I need her volume 5. She's not been on YouTube for a while, and I've not seen her. I've not seen her on Instagram, so I'm wondering if she's okay. She was not the only artist I was in contact with when I was pursuing my career in wanting to be an artist. Fast forward to when I transferred all my credits over to another college that was about a good hour and a half, 2 hours away, and the other person I was in contact with was a very talented pop manga artist called Camilla DeErico, and I absolutely loved her work, and I actually learned a lot about drawing anime from her pop manga book and everything. And to me it was a legitimate art style because she had so much of these just like glorious pastels. She had so much that was like steampunk in a way, and stuff like that. To me it was just amazing. Well, the art teachers at this school that I was going to did not agree with me whatsoever. I was heavily ridiculed for my desire to want to become a mangaka, to want to draw anime and everything. I was heavily ridiculed for it, not only by my peers, but also by the teachers. One of which my mother says that if we ever meet him, she has never met him in his life, but if we ever meet him again, that she will say, "Hey, guess what? She's a published author now." So that and that was sort of my that little project was sort of a combination of my desire to be a writer and my desire to be an artist. It was my manga project that I actually finished all the way through, but it was a little difficult because I was having to go in between drawing out, and this was when I was still relatively, naive in the way of storytelling and writing and everything, because I was done with the first draft of the script for the manga, and I was already writing, and I was already drawing pages for the story and everything. That's a big no-no. But I did have people who believed in me for that, and I was sort of pushing it aside for a side project. But at the same time, I was also experiencing heavy amounts of heavy mood swings of depression, to the point where I would literally be skipping out on classes, and I was only ever eating, wandering around the house, or going to work. There was no in between for me. So I was sort of in a state of malaise. I wasn't even drawing anymore. I was just stagnant, and I think it was because I still felt like an outsider. One thing that you'll probably see throughout the entirety of the story is that I always felt like an outsider. And let's just say it was definitely not good for a creative mind. And I've had a lot of people argue with me about this because creative people are more susceptible to depression, and I had the nerve of a psychiatrist tell me that wasn't true. First of all, and forgive me for my language, bullshit. It was like I can give you many examples of very astute and creative minds that were experiencing mental health issues. Vincent van Gogh is a brilliant example, and some of the examples aren't even artists. Some of them were mathematicians. Some of them were scientists. Stuff like that, and it's just it's hard not to see history and facts for what they were and what they are. But back to the story. Seeing as how I was sort of in a downward spiral, with some spikes of creativity every once in a while, I just fell. And the one to pull me out of that was my mom. Mom and I have always been very close, and it's because of the fact that she shares everything with me, and I share everything with her, emotion-wise and everything. And and I always needed someone to talk to, and I didn't really have that. I mean, like, I had friends and everything, but I didn't want to trouble them with that. And yeah. Well, after it was decided that I was going to drop out and try to make my way in the world, in this big wide world on my own, to which my dad was not happy and demanded that I moved back home, I was really close. Now, true, I'm about to skip over some important parts here, and I don't mean to, but one thing that also did save me, that I always went to the school for, no matter what, even if I was depressed, was anime club, because that is where I met my friends that are now part of my D&D group. That is where I met Angie and her now husband Drake. That's where I met Joe. That's where I met Ryan. That's where I met a close friend of mine that sort of fell out with the group and everything. And that is also where I met my boyfriend, Michael. And I sort of got back into storytelling and everything. I got back into writing and everything, and I got back, more importantly, into character creation because they had invited me to be part of their D&D group, and I had a lot of fun with it, to say the least. So that was sort of the beginning of a step in the right direction for me. There was that. So yeah. But when I had to move back home, it was particularly difficult because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't want to lose contact with any of my friends. I didn't want to lose the semblance of fragile independence that I had. But I did know that I needed to come back home, and so I did. But I worked at another branch of the bookstore that I was working at, and I worked there for a year and a half until I subsequently left because I was again being bullied by a man of fragile masculinity. And I went to work with my mom at the place that I stayed at for 2.5, nearly 3 years, even in the midst of COVID and everything. At the first beginning of the pandemic. So there was that. But it was during that time that I was at this longest job that I started writing again. I was writing fan fiction, true, but I was at least writing again. And I was also listening to audiobooks. I found bootlegged audiobooks on YouTube, and I was listening to those. I listened to the entire first 2 books of the Witcher series, which if you haven't listened to those, you really need to, because hearing the narrator in one of the stories having to sing to a mermaid, because that's how they speak, and then him turning to the guy who's trying to figure out what is she saying, and it's like it's a complicated dialect. I need to focus. It was very, very funny, and I particularly liked those. So yeah. But after that, I started writing Arborea Lux and everything, and I was writing it whenever I could, at work. Yes, I was writing it at work when I was supposed to be focusing on the machine, focusing on work, but there are some down times where you can actually, work on other things, and just, whenever I needed to write, I needed to write and everything. So yeah, there was that. And with that job, I was able to pay for a new laptop. I was able to save more money to go to anime conventions with, because that was still a passion of mine, and it was good there for a few years, until one instance had to be at the beginning of this year, but also a little bit of last year too. I started to feel a sort of dynamic change in the workplace, and it was definitely not a good one. I was still technically doing everything right and everything, but apparently it was not good enough because they claimed that I was distracted by my writing. Now, I won't say that I wasn't distracted and everything, but I was able to. But the thing about it is that my mind is sort of ADHD. It will, if my body is doing something that's sort of malaise, my mind will just shoot out of my head and go somewhere else. It'll go on adventures of its own. And I don't think they properly realized that. So there was that. But nevertheless, I did finish my book. I finished Arborea Lux, and I started writing on other projects while I was there, and I was doing my best to make sure everything was right, because that was the first time I had really gotten serious about publishing any of my work, any of my art form as a storyteller. And I I was determined. I had found the dream that I had wanted to achieve when I was a child. And I did achieve that dream. I did publish my first book, and now I'm working on the sequel trilogy to that series, expanding more of that universe, because there are two other books for Arborea Lux that I actually want to do after the Seraphim trilogy and everything. There is a prequel to Arborea Lux that talks about the beginning and the origins of Aster Bloods, and then there's the companion novel to Arborea Lux itself, which takes place more from a Silas's point of view. And then there were other stories that I wanted to do, Guardian Grim Reaper being one, Dreams of Blood and Ink, which I have now changed the title of to Dreams of Woven Ink, and I was starting to find my way again, and it felt good. It felt good. But the incident happened, and I felt sort of in danger. I felt the exact same danger I felt when I was at this college full of art teachers that weren't being encouraging of dreams, and I left. I had to leave, so I left. And then after that, because I was working on my YouTube channel at the time, and we were about to go on this very big vacation. We went on vacation, and I came back, and I started working this job for 2 weeks, technically 3, but I was out sick 1 week. And she didn't want to risk her daughter's health because she had little to no immune system. So I was there, and it wasn't what I needed, and here I am now. I guess this sort of short memoir, well, I say short, and we're probably going to reach the hour mark here very soon. Of course, I say that, and it's only 33 minutes, but I guess the point of this entire story is that a writer's journey is complicated, and it could be that they fell into it, or they were always pursuing it. And for me, I guess it was sort of a little bit of both, because I wanted to pursue it when I was a child. I wanted to be a writer when I was a child, but because of things happening, I sort of had to push it to the back of my mind, and I had to sort of be realistic. And then you see bits and spurs of it throughout my story, where I was making up characters and stories and all that, but none of it really felt original because I was copying from everybody else. But that's the crux of storytelling and how you learn, is that you learn by imitation, and that was that. So yeah. All I can say is that my story has led me to where I am now. I am now a owner of a small company of Lions Publishing LLC that I am slowly getting off the ground. I have written and published my first book, with several more books on the way, and I am doing it with no more than $100 in my savings account, and it's sort of been a little bit hectic for me in a way, because I have that level of stress that I've not had for many years, and I am just it's something that I don't want to really worry about, but at the same time I have to worry about it. But I know that I will find another job soon, and it will be a job where I can really work on writing on the side, and that will be sort of not necessarily my side hustle, but it will still be part of my sort of semi-self-employment. And the moral of the story is that no matter what you experience in your life and everything, use it to motivate you to follow your dream, no matter what. Particularly because that dream is unique to you and to you alone. True, other people may want to be writers out there, some people want to be artists, but they all have their own spin on that dream. Your version of your dream is yours, and that is why I want to encourage everybody. Heck, it's why I have my favorite sort of ism of mine is that a world lies beyond the cover of a book waiting for you to immerse yourself, to inspire you. That is one of the reasons why I say that so often at the end of some of these videos, because it's apropos and it's something that you need and everything. And that's just it. So yeah. And that is the end of this video. It was a long one and everything, but at the same time, I feel like it needed to be said. And let's just say that it was something that needed to be said, and it was something that I felt like I needed to sort of get off my chest and everything, primarily because of some of these things I'm about to plug in for the end of this video. Plug number one is another rehash of my plug for my book. Obviously, and the reason I do this is specifically because I'm trying to get my name out there. So bear with me. My book is not the only way that you can support me by buying it, reviewing it, stuff like that, sharing it with people you know that you think would like the book. That's not the only way that you can support me. I also have a Ko-Fi account. The link is down in the description below. And there you can tip me for my work and everything for these videos. And I actually have a new goal on Ko-Fi. I have a goal for the publishing costs for the Seraphim trilogy, which is primarily the need for cover art and also copywriting fees and stuff like that. And that's just the link is down in the description below, and you're able to donate to that goal. It is a very minuscule goal. It's not even $500. But donating what you can, and it doesn't necessarily have to be monthly. It can be just a one-time thing. You doing that would help me a lot, and I would very much appreciate it. You can also support me by buying some of my merch. I, in fact, now have a merch store for all of you lovely Arborea Lux fans out there. I have t-shirts with the silhouette of Luxalia with Asilas. I recently just put one up there for Queen Elaine, and I'm working on other designs right now. And these are all designs that are sort of, like close to my heart because of this story and everything, because all of these designs I just absolutely love. The link for the Print Device store is down in the description below. Go there and see what you like. You can get yourself a t-shirt, you can get yourself a mug or a tumbler, you can get yourself some stickers or a hat. And there's one little thing that doesn't actually match with the Arborea Lux stuff in the inventory of products and everything. There is the Yup merchandise, and that is specifically for my mom, because if you've watched any of the Michigan migration videos, then you know that my mom loves saying yup all the time while we were up there in Michigan. So I decided, you know what, I will make her some merch and everything. So she particularly loves it. There is a button on there, there is a hat, and there is a shirt and there is also a sticker for Yup, and she loves it. She loves it already. But if you are interested you can go on there and you can peruse the merch and buy if you want. It would mean so much to me if you did. And of course, if you guys are wanting to just support me in the usual fashion, please, if you have not already, please subscribe and ring that bell for more notifications to get more videos like this. And also hop over to my other channel, the Otaku Section, where I basically just geek out about anime and manga, but from a storyteller's point of view. And just like, subscribe, and comment, and ring that bell for more notifications on that channel as well. That would help out a lot as well. And maybe I will come up with some Otaku Section merch for the channel for the store. So yeah. I also have numerous social media accounts that you can follow. I have an author page on Facebook. I have a blog on Twitter/X because Elon Musk is just absolutely nuts. Yeah, if you've not seen the thing about he's changing the name of Twitter to X.com, look that up because that's just weird. I don't know why he's doing this, and I don't know why he's doing this with a company that we know that we have always known as Twitter. So it's just odd, and I don't know why he's doing it except for the fact that he's got a whole bunch of money and he just loves the letter X for some reason. But besides that, I also have Instagram and I also have TikTok. You guys may have actually recently seen some of these shorts that I put up, and those were all from a single video on my TikTok for the writer meme series that I have. I need to actually look up more writer memes. So if you are part of any of my social media, please tag me in any writer memes that you may find, and I will feature them, and also a shout out to you in a video on TikTok. But I think that is all that I can do for today without me going over truly into an hour of just rambling on camera. So I hope you guys have a very wonderful day, a very wonderful week, and I hope you guys follow your dream, no matter what hurdles there are, no matter what situation you may be in, financial or otherwise. I hope you guys follow your dreams, because those are truly what make us, and that is more important than anything else. This is Kat the Crowing Author here at the Magic Library, and I'll see you next time. Hopefully. Bye, guys.